Hey guys, it's the Keeper's Corner here. We're going to go ahead and check out the Archer's Quest, which is one of the new temporary campaigns they've added here. If you aren't aware, the Ninja Kiwi guys went ahead and made themselves a pretty awesome campaign editor, so they're going to be able to add special campaigns like this regularly as often as they choose without having to do any updates. So hopefully we'll start to see a lot more of these with catacombs maps and combination tokens as rewards. The gimmick with this one is that you have to bring the archer along because it is the archer's quest. If you're able to run with this higher end gear, of course do so. For the sake of demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and do this with my blackguard, my knight, so they could soak up a little bit more damage and a little less healing needed from the cleric. However, you definitely don't need this strong of a gear setup. You can just as easily go with a mithril mail, crystal hammer on your cleric. I've even completed this with the gore-soaked plate on the knight instead of the strength of legend here. However, I've since gotten rid of it. Of course, as I've said many times before, Shell of Protection is gonna be your go-to for PvE on your knight and your paladin, things like that, until you're able to get yourself a Strength of Legend. This one's available at level 36, so it's going to help you out pretty early there in completing this content. And the archer himself, having him somewhat leveled up with a half-decent bow is going to help you a lot. It's not entirely necessary. One of the good things about this campaign, though, is it'll hopefully open people up that the archer really isn't that bad. His biggest downfall is his health. As you can see here, at 6 stars, he's only got 1,000 health compared to a few other heroes. 1772 on the Blackguard at 6 stars, 1420 at the Knight on 5 stars. So he's basically got the same amount of health as your healer characters and whatnot. A few things you can do to keep him alive in those situations is a support team with Paladins, Warmaster together will help boost the defense of any heroes. That team in particular is going to help if you are unable to use this higher end gear. Simply putting your Warmaster in back here, your Paladin in front, and have your Paladin set up for a defensive build with the Holy Shield to boost your team defense, and then the Warmaster's Soul Skill to give you that double boost. It'll be a little slower, but you could definitely complete this stage with that crew. It's probably going to take level 36 or higher to do this one. Pretty much the same as the Mason's campaign. Another option here is to use the Shaman, but again, like I said, I prefer to preserve as much healing need as possible. So we're going to go ahead and roll in with these guys. It's a pretty straightforward mission. There's a handful of fairly menacing enemies from the high-level Cone of Fire guys. With any Knight party build, as I'm going to always tell you, try and stack Inspiration as many times as possible. One of the benefits of using the Knight over the Paladin is the attack boost in addition to the defense boost. Granted, the defense boost isn't nearly as high as the Paladin's, and you don't get the added armor and defense of the Warmaster. Keep in mind, if you are using that Paladin and Warmaster combo, you're going to gain 400 defense, 10% armor every time you get both buffs off, so you can get quite beefy quite quick. As you can see here, though, right off the bat, the monsters in this dungeon are going to do a ton of damage regardless of what gear you have. So you really need to keep your healing focused on your tank. And if you have a weak backline member behind your tank, you're going to take a lot of damage. So having the Paladin, Warmaster, or Knight Blackguard is definitely suggested. If you've got an Epic Cloth Archmage, they could definitely do it. If you've got decent chain for your Shaman, they could do it as well. And in any PvE dungeon like this, you're going to see poison is going to be the menace to your Knight pretty often. You might have to pop a couple revives off as you run through this, but again, it shouldn't be a problem so long as you stay on top of those inspiration stacks for your backliners. Once your Knight goes down, they should have no problem surviving a couple hits. And you'll learn over time. See, like that inspiration, for example, was a wasted one. You want to make sure you don't do things like that. And you'll see I went ahead and switched targets there because I'm going to use the Archer's Soul skill to hopefully take that top guy down. Or Righteous Call here will hopefully take him out. Which it did. So instead we'll go ahead and Soul Rend on this guy. Another thing too is if you're bringing the Blackguard, you do want to Soul Rend the back sneak attacker if you can't survive the hits from her. The true damage hits from those guys can definitely be pretty big at this level. And in a lower HP hero like the Cleric or the Archer, if you don't have a taunt up, they can really do some serious damage to them. But thankfully it's not a 5-stage or 5-level stage. There's only 3 levels here. The mobs are pretty powerful, but the rewards are definitely worth it. I've already completed it here, but it gives the same rewards as the final stage of the Masons campaign, so you're going to get a free Void Core for completing this. Typically you do want to time your stuns on those eyeballs a little better to avoid the cone of fire for as long as possible. But if you're capable of surviving it, you just want to kind of pummel them as quickly as possible with the Knight and the Blackguard's ranged attacks. You can see I've been running Tendril of Shadow here on the Blackguard instead of the Death Glare. You definitely can go with the 2 offensive passives and run Death Glare for the bonus damage while stunned. And again, like I said, if you're unable to complete this stage with this team, I would definitely suggest using the Paladin, the Warmaster, the Cleric, and the Archer, and trying to put as much offensive power into your Archer as possible, because the Shaman and the Paladin, of course, are going to be a lot slower. However, their defense boosts are really going to help you out. And as you can see here, you definitely want to preserve the soul energy for when you need revives on your Knight. Even a more powerful, better geared Knight is going to take some deaths on this stage. That's why you definitely want your Cleric along instead of your Druid. And you do want to make sure that you're running Charismatic Leader on your Cleric in this stage for the bonus resistances, as well as the healing bonus. Although typically I would advise to use Charismatic Leader and Tithe together, especially when doing any first stage completions. It's going to be the biggest gold boost you're going to get from these daily campaigns, even when running the Gold Road, the Mason's Isle, and the training campaign, the boot camp. The earlier stages a lot of people tend to skip. They'll just make their way straight to the finish and do the final stage. You really do want to do a full clear on those with your gold team. A well-leveled gold team, 5-6 stars with their skills, their gold boost skills at 8 and 9. You're going to net a pretty significant gain from doing all of those with that team. But as you can see here, the Knight took a couple falls. We're going to finish it off probably with him dead still. But this is definitely a little bit harder than the Mason's Isle. It's a very neat addition to have these special campaign dungeons where a particular hero has to come along. It kind of stresses diversity in your hero stock a little more and helps open people's eyes to some heroes they might not have considered in the past. The Archer does have some pretty good potential with his take aim ability, his crit bonus. Take aim and headshot, especially if you get some buffs or debuffs going, can become really big hits with a good bow and a decent archer. His true damage shots and his line abilities definitely can be very powerful as well. So if you choose to use them, a good combination for him is the Warmaster and the Archmage. Battle Fury is going to help buff his damage a little higher, and once you hit off a Poison Cloud and a Meteor Swarm with your Archmage, it's typically going to get most of the enemies below 40%, which is going to give the Archer that extra damage boost from his second passive there. Anyhow, that's the Archer's Extreme campaign stage. Once again, if you can't beat it with that team, try out the Paladin, the Warmaster, the Cleric, and the Archer. You should have a little more success with that. Thanks for checking out the video.